Hello, my name's Ian Anson-Gray, and in this episode of the Confident Live Marketing Show, I'm joined by Libby Langley, and we're going to be sharing how to create a social media marketing plan for your live streams and beyond. So we'll be with you just after this.
Welcome to the Confident Live Marketing Show with Ian Anderson-Gray.
Helping you level up your impact, authority, and profits through the power of confident live video.
Optimize your mindset and communication and increase your confidence in front of the camera.
Get confident with the tech and gear.
And get confident with the content and marketing.
Together, we can go live!
Well, hello. Welcome to episode 110 of the Confident Live Marketing Podcast. This is the show that helps you level up your impact, authority, and profits through the power of live video. And we're talking about how to build, how to create, how to plan a social media marketing plan. Well, how do you plan a plan? Anyway, we're going to be talking about that today. And I'm joined by Libby Langley. I'm really excited to bring Libby on. And when it comes to creating any kind of content, I think the most important bit that I've realized over time is planning. Now, I've never been a particularly amazing planner, but when I put that time and effort into the plan, it's really changed everything that I've done. This podcast and show is a case in point because I spent so much time planning at the start, and it's allowed me to be consistent every single week. The podcast has been going every Friday since May 2019, which is pretty amazing. So that I think it's especially vital when it comes to live video. You can promote, you can produce, you can repurpose it all amazingly well, but if you don't have a plan, then you're kind of doomed to fail. So that's what we're going to be talking about on today's show. Just to let you know, we go live every Tuesday and Thursday to Facebook, YouTube, and so many other places. And you can find the show notes for this at iag.me/110 when the podcast comes out. And if you want to subscribe to the podcast, just go to iag.me/podcast. Awesome. Well, it's time to bring in my first sponsor, and this is AgoraPulse. This is my favorite social media management tool, and it's quite apt to talk about a social media management tool because we're talking about social media marketing plans today. So here's a little bit more about AgoraPulse.
The Confident Live Marketing Podcast is made possible thanks to our sponsor, AgoraPulse. AgoraPulse is the all-in-one social media management tool. Publish, schedule, monitor, and engage on all your social media platforms. And with the social inbox, you and your team can manage all your messages, comments, and mentions all in one place and get to that magical inbox zero. And don't forget the amazing analytics and reporting so you can see how your social efforts are performing. Get your first month completely free at agorapulse.com/confident live.
Well, do check out AgoraPulse, agorapulse.com/confident live. And there's also a free plan. They've just released a free plan in the last month or so. So do check that out. Well, it's time to bring in Libby. Libby Langley is a social media coach with over 11 years experience in teaching businesses to use social media well. She's trained over 6,000 people, and her real passion is helping the owners of small businesses to move forwards and get rid of the stress and anxiety that they have around social media so that they can focus on growing their business online and have fun doing it. Welcome to the show, Libby.
Hello.
Oh, we like to roll out the red carpet here and make you feel special.
Like
Well, thank you so much for coming on, Libby. It's been a while since we've last spoken. I reckon I don't know. I think it's 2015. I've got a photo here. Do you remember this photo? Are you ready for this?
Oh God.
Okay. So
Yeah,
podcast listeners will not be able to see this, but I think this is at Heathrow Airport in 2015 as we were going along to Social Media Marketing World. I think it was the first time we met and the last time in a way.
We met at a mastermind. Before that, we were in the same mastermind. I think in 2015. Before that, and then we met. I remember we met at the airport. I'm sure.
Well, do you know what? This is the kind of weird thing about social media. You kind of forget what's in the real world and what's virtual. I don't know. I've got a really bad memory. But anyway, I do remember. I remember that very clearly because. So this was we met up for lunch or something at Heathrow Airport before we went to Social Media Marketing World, and then we went to board the plane, and we all had separate tickets. And I was there with Ian Cleary, yourself, and Lilith Bullock. And you two girls managed to wangle upgrades to business. I will never forget that. And poor me and Ian, the two Ians were in cattle class. Do you remember that?
Well, I do because I got upgraded and I got seated next to the most wonderful chap. And we talked for the entire 11-hour journey, went for dinner that night, had a bit of a liaison, shall I say, and are still firm friends now. We're both married to other people, and we're both now married, but we're still in touch, and it was just the most wonderful experience thanks to BA and the upgrade. Well,
there you go. I've still not had my upgrade years later, but I'm still waiting. British Airways, if you're still around after all of this pandemic, yeah, you need to upgrade me. Anyway, great to have you on the show. So you're dialing in from, let us know where you're dialing in from in England.
From me?
Yeah, Libby, yeah, you.
Sorry. Yes, I thought I'd already said that. I'm sorry. I'm in Market Harbour in Leicestershire, on the Leicestershire-Northants border.
Yeah, that's great. No, you did say it before, but just for podcast listeners and replay viewers, they wouldn't have heard that. So that's why I'm asking you again. You're not going around the bend, don't worry. So let's just have a look. We've got some comments here. So let's have a look. So Challenge ITV saying, planning on having a plan, but so far still confused. Hope today will help to build my social media plan. Well, that's my hope too. And Challenge ITV also says, Twitter, IG, Facebook, are you coming to focus on one social platform or multiple the audience reach? Yeah, so that's an interesting one. How many ones do we focus on? And Alec Dorling is watching on YouTube as well. I think everyone's watching on YouTube today. It's an exciting thing. So Alec is saying, good day, Ian. Long time since I was able to interact live, at least for a little while. Well, it's great to see you, Alec. Hope you're doing really well. Libby, how did you get into what you currently do? We were talking just before we went on air that I think we're both really interested in hearing people's stories. Like, how do we get to what we're currently doing? So this is your turn to share your story. How did you get into what you're doing now?
Well, I used to work in education. I was a commercial development manager for a local FE college, and I got qualified as a tutor while I was there and ran some commercial courses. And I used Facebook and Twitter a little bit. I mean, we're going back to 2009 now. Used Facebook and Twitter a bit and thought, do you know what, this could probably work for businesses. So I did some research and I wrote and delivered a few workshops, and they went well and people paid to come on them, and it was making a difference to their businesses. So I did quite a few of those over my last couple of years at the college. And then, well, I mean, anyone who's worked in the public sector will understand that it gets to the point where it's really just kind of unbearable. And so I left and thought, right, what skills do I have that I want to use to build a business for myself? And I'd very much enjoyed doing the training. Like I said, I was qualified to do it. And I found social media very interesting because it was kind of in its really early days there. And there was lots you could do with very little. And I found that really fascinating. And it's the way I built my business, was on Twitter in the early days. And so it all grew from there, really. And it was 2011 that I started working for myself after 2 years of kind of practicing, I suppose, under the guise of a good salary and annual leave and a nice pension. And then I took the leap to work for myself and haven't looked back.
Awesome. And how's it been over the last, it's 10 years, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, good. For the most part, I've absolutely enjoyed the ride. The thing that I like the most about working for myself is that I can just say, yeah, nah, I don't want to do that anymore, and change it all. And I know that actually one time that we were together, that was 2015. Actually, you're absolutely right. That time that we were in San Diego, and I remember sitting around the pool on home time day with you and a few others, and just, yeah, I'm not really happy with the way that my business is. And so I got advice from some of you guys. I came back, I made my staff redundant, I got rid of my offices, I went back to just working on by myself. And that was the best thing that I did, actually. It was tough, and it was very difficult. And I'd not long been divorced, or I was on my own as well. So it was all kind of a big gamble to take at the time. But actually, it was a really good move about thinking, well, what do I want to do in my business, and what will help me? So that was a very down period, but it became a positive period. So there were ups and downs, but ultimately it's a ride that I probably wouldn't change.
Yeah, no, I think we probably, all of us in the entrepreneurial world, have gone through those difficult times. And I was going to say, I remember that conversation that you, and you kind of don't like to take those little steps. You went back and you just like sack it all. You're all going, let's completely change it. No subtlety involved. So, one of the things I really respect with you and agree with, we've talked about this, is the whole issue of, in this world, there's a lot of, talking about hustle and working really hard. And I know for you that you're not in that mindset. I know that we talk about, having some time off and like not working at the weekends and all this kind of stuff. And one of the things that really kind of struck me from your bio was taking away the stress and anxiety from social media. Why do you think so many of us have stress and anxiety when it comes to social media? What's going on there?
I think it's a number of points, really. And one thing that I've always taught right from the beginning is don't try and do everything. This 24/7 hustle culture is something I absolutely abhor. I find it abhorrent. I mean, I've worked, don't get me wrong, when I first few years of having a business, I did the 15-hour days because you have to get started. But that's about building a reputation. And then when you've found your groove, you don't need to do that. It's okay to build a business that runs on autopilot so you can spend time with your family or stay in bed all day or watch Netflix or whatever it is that you want to do. That's all right. Living life is more important. Building a business that allows you to live your life is more important than working loads of hours just to say you can work loads of hours. And I just don't think that that's right mentally for people's mental health to encourage that. And the stress and anxiety that comes around social media is partly because of that, because it's drilled into us that we need to be visible, we need to be visible, we need to be visible. Yes, we do need to be visible, but that can be visibility for 5 minutes a day. It doesn't have to be 24/7 visibility. You don't have to spend your life on social media. You don't have to create 10 pieces of content for Facebook every day. It's too much, and it's not going to get you towards your goals. And one of the main things that I do with my clients and the students in my program is that I give them permission to be much more strategic about their social media and follow a plan. And that's what allows you to kind of step back and step off this hamster wheel of always having to do things, always having to be there, always having to do it. Do. You don't need to do that. If you've got a strategy and a plan, you stick to that. It takes you 5 minutes a day, then brilliant. It takes you 5 minutes a day. That's fine. And you're getting towards your goals. So yeah, I feel really strongly and passionately about it. And also one of the questions that somebody asked was about Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. You don't need to be on them all. You need to be on the one where your audience is, or the one that you prefer, which is probably the same thing, and focus on that. Because if you're having to manage and properly manage multiple accounts, that's a full-time job. And your social media or any of your marketing shouldn't be a full-time job.
Love that. Really, really agree with you. But it is so that temptation is there. And I feel this, I'm focusing on my social media plan and strategy at the moment. And I've got you could have, I could have felt really bad because like I totally agree with you. But I've got like a spreadsheet with like Instagram, but not just Instagram. I've got Instagram stories, Instagram, the feed, and then I've got Twitter, and then I've got Twitter stories, and then I've got LinkedIn stories. I've got Clubhouse, I've got email. Oh my goodness! Like you can you can feel the stress and anxiety just increasing there, and so to focus on one platform is so important. Sorry, Libby, what are you going to say?
No, I was just going to say, and what you're saying is that, well, you're going to do them badly. Anyone is going to do that many platforms, that many things. You're not going to give them the attention and nurture that they need, that the audience needs, rather than the platforms themselves. But you're not going to give them the attention or the focus that they need. So you're going to end up ticking boxes to say, right, done Twitter. Oh, yeah, something on Twitter stories. That's done. Something on LinkedIn. Tick, done. Oh, right. Okay. Now an email sent. Tick. And it's not, the value isn't there. The love for what you do isn't apparent. It's you're doing it to tick a box. And that's really, really stressful and pretty pointless, to be honest.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I can see that Melissa is here. Great to see you, saying sorry for being late. You do not need to be sorry. It's just awesome that you're here, Melissa. And so there's a question from Challenge ITV, but I kind of want to combine it with one of my own, which is, I'll ask the question. So Challenge ITV says, content is different on Twitter and Instagram. What if we have a mixed type of content? And I suppose the question is, is it okay if we're focusing on two different platforms, say it's Twitter and Instagram, can we reuse some of that content? So I know some people will post the same stories, say to Instagram and Twitter. Is that a big no-no? What should we do there?
Well, this is where it all comes down to your plan and your strategy, quite frankly. Yeah. And the first thing in that is really to know your audience and what your audience wants. So, but yes, it's absolutely okay to repurpose content, but it might have to be in a different format. But if you're using, say, Twitter and Instagram, like you said, and you've got very similar audiences on there, so the similar types of people, then they will want to consume the core content, the core content message the same, but you might have to do it in different formats. And that's okay. And that's all part of your strategy. But yeah, absolutely. Your message is your message, and your communication with your audience and your ideal customers is just that. It should always be the same thing. You shouldn't really be sharing different content on different platforms, because you're diluting your message, and it's making it harder for people to understand what it is that you do and what you're promoting. And how they can work with you, what services it is that you offer. But absolutely, the platforms are different, so the content might need to be in slightly different formats. But I would never auto share from one to the other. Instagram to Facebook is a key one, because you can set it up to do it automatically, but they work differently. Hashtags aren't really used on Facebook, and if you're tagging people on Instagram and then you share it automatically across to Facebook, you've got at names that don't mean anything. You've got loads of hashtags that don't look right on Facebook. So utilize the core content, but make it in the format that suits that platform.
Yeah, really important stuff. I think it's so easy to become lazy with this. Having that plan is going to get rid of not necessarily all of the anxiety, but a lot of it, I think. But then, I think so many of us want to kind of do the short version, which is not good. It's interesting that there's a study that was done years ago about, do scheduling tools like Hootsuite, Buffer, Agorapulse, do they harm your reach when it comes to social media? A lot of people think that it does, but what the outcome was of the research, and I'd be interested to know what you think about this, is that it's not, Facebook doesn't lower the reach if you use a scheduling tool, but people become really lazy when they're using a scheduling tool, and so the quality of the content that they're putting out is a lot lower, and so it doesn't do quite as well. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely used to be that if you used a scheduling tool, then, I mean, Hootsuite was always the one. your reach would be lower. And it was blindingly obvious that was the case. And I'm talking, kind of over the years there. But these days, the reach, Facebook is a challenge to work with these days. Reach is at its organic reach is at its all-time low, and engagement is at its all-time low on Facebook. So people are turning to other platforms. So using a scheduling tool is better for you strategically, and is better for you in terms of lowering your stress and anxiety. And the difference that it actually makes these days is negligible. It's much better to spend, rather than spending time analysing that and worrying about that, is spending time crafting the right kind of message for your audience. And if it's good content, it will get noticed, it will get talked about, it will get engagement, it will get reach. If it's not good content, doesn't matter how you share it, it ain't going to do anything for you.
Yeah, definitely. Now, the other word that I noticed in your bio was the word fun, making it fun. And I think that this is so important, because if we don't enjoy it, if it's not fun, then we're probably not going to do it. How important is the fun element, and how do we make it fun? How do we make it managing our social media channels fun?
Well, I mean, if you're in your own business, if you run your own business and you're not enjoying it, then you shouldn't be doing it anyway. And really, for marketing yourself, which is what a lot of us in service businesses, entrepreneurs in service businesses are doing, if we're not engaging and lively and having a good time doing what we're doing, why would anyone choose to work with us? And yes, I know there are a million caveats to that. But if the more fun you have, and I'm not talking about being really stupid, I'm just talking about if you're saying something and you make yourself laugh, that's great, and that's good, and that's personality that comes across. And if you find your content boring, so will everybody else. And that's really the kind of crux of the matter, is that it's okay to enjoy it. It's social media. People are not on social media to learn astrophysics. They're on there to waste time while they're waiting to pick their kids up from school, or because they don't want to get out of bed, or they're cooking the tea or something. And remembering that social media is ultimately a time waster should help you craft content that is more accessible in small snippets, and catches people's eyes, attention, and enthusiasm. So it's okay to have fun with stuff. You don't have to. You're not coming across as a joke if you do that.
Yeah, it's the bit I always find that's much more attractive, and I'm much more going to watch somebody if they're having some fun and just being real and like making the odd mistake. I mean, that's and it I think I like that. But then when it comes to creating my own content, I go through phases. So I'm much better at this now, but there was a time, like for example, I would go through Instagram stories and I'd share it every single day, and then I'd kind of forget about it, and I'd probably start to think, well, nobody's interested in that, and interested in my story and in my life. And then I went to a conference, and somebody said to me, "Oh, I really love your Instagram stories. Why have you stopped? I was really enjoying them." And I think sometimes we need that reminder that, okay, we might look at our own lives and think, well, surely nobody would be interested in that. I'm sure you hear this a lot. What would you say to people who are thinking those things?
Yeah, it's about sharing the rounder picture. I mean, if you're just talking about, I provide X service and so-and-so came through my program and got Z results, then, that's fine, but it's a bit boring. So the kind of Pareto rule is always applicable here with content. So 80% should be interesting and engaging content, the fun, the personality stuff, here's this little snippet that might be useful for you. And then 20% is the salesy stuff. So here's my program. These are the results that you can get. This is when my course is next open. That kind of stuff. And if you keep that balance in your plan with your strategy, then that will help build a more rounded social media for people. And remember that not everybody enters your social media channels at the same point. So you might be thinking in your strategy, you might think, right, I'll start here, and I'll work through a month, and at the end of that month of content, I'm going to do my big sell. But actually, what if the penultimate day of your month, straight away I'm being hit with a sale? So you've got to mix up the content, and that's why stories are so good, because you can do that mini I suppose, a mini social media funnel, if you like, not a funnel, but in terms of wording for understanding, then you can do that with your stories. So each of your stories, even if it's only a minute long, can have a beginning, a middle, and an end that sort of takes people on a journey. And interspersing that core marketing content with, I had a day out with my kids today, and this is what I did, helps build the picture of how you operate as a business owner. And that again informs people's decisions as to whether they want to work with you. Because if you're always just banging on about work, well, where's the empathy? How can I hook into your personality? How do I know that I'll like you? So yeah, it is really important to mix this stuff up.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think I've got work. I've got a client because I posted on, I can't remember where it was, but I posted I was in the park with the kids, and she said to me afterwards, that's what clinched it for me, because like all the other stuff that you were talking about, I mean, it's not to say that that you shouldn't be talking about your work and all of that. She looked at and thought, okay, he knows what he's talking about, but it was that one, oh, he's like a real person. And I think that was really that was the clincher there. And I think when I want to work with other people, when I've hired people, it's, yes, I want to know that they can do the job, but I also want to know, am I going to get on with them? And it's that side of things, which I think is really, really important too. Now I can see we've got a few questions here, and I'm going to ask Libby about how we actually get started with a social media plan in a bit. But these are kind of questions that I'm sure you get asked a lot, and they're good questions. But so Challenge ITV is asking any recommendations on the frequency, especially when just starting. So that is kind of how often should we be posting to social media? And I suppose it kind of partly depends on the platform, but any thoughts on that?
Yeah, it depends entirely on the platform. But if we're talking about Facebook and Instagram, then if you aim for daily, that's brilliant. If you do it 5 times a week, that's pretty good. You don't need to do anything multiple times daily, but if you're only doing something once a week, you're not giving enough for your audience to see and to build up momentum, and you're not doing enough for the algorithm to be able to kind of track you. So aim for daily, but 5 times a week, 4 or 5 times a week is good. If the content is good, it all boils down to your content. If your content is rubbish and you're posting every day, you're still never going to achieve anything. But yeah, good content, 5 to 7 times a week is good.
Like that. And Alec is asking a question. As a small business, how do you see the benefit of using Instagram and or Twitter as part of a social media marketing plan? And I think that kind of brings us nicely into my next question. So yeah, what are your thoughts on that?
Okay. Well, I've already said that when I started my business coming up for 10 years ago, I built it on Twitter. Twitter used to be an absolutely incredible place for connecting with people, with meeting people, but that was 10 years ago. If you're starting out now, I wouldn't recommend using Twitter. It's too fast paced. Its focus has moved away. Its USP changed when they increased the number of characters, I suppose, really, which was quite a few years ago now. And in order to be really successful on Twitter, you're going to need to be tweeting multiple times a day and going out and finding other people. And it's a lot of work. So I would say, if you're starting out, absolutely don't do that. If you've already got an existing following there, then that's fine. But it's not for new starters. And Instagram is great. Instagram is the easiest place now to build a following, to build some traction, to start getting customers through for your business. Partly because it was built as an app. I mean, it's old now, over 10 years old, but it was built as an app, so it's a simpler platform. It's a simpler place to use, and the hashtag engagement is excellent. So you can find communities, people can find you through the hashtags that you use. It's very image based, so it's easy to stand out, because as people are scrolling through on their phones, as they scroll through, all they can see is your image on the screen, and then the next image, and then the next image. There's no other stuff to get distracted by. So I would definitely say if you're going to be picking one of those two, I would say Instagram, and it's more manageable in terms of the stress. Like I say, you could do 5 times a week or something, and you're fine. But Twitter is multiple times daily. Yeah,
I agree. It kind of saddens me with Twitter, because Twitter used to be my my favorite network, and it's just the overwhelm now. It's just the frequency is just ridiculous. I mean, I just don't go onto Twitter. I just get anxious just loading it up. It's like, but you know, Instagram's. Sorry, what are you going to say?
I haven't used it for years.
Yeah.
Now,
yeah.
not actively. Probably, I don't know, 5 or 6 years. I haven't.
I know it's sad, but I've got over 50,000 followers on there. Not that. See, this is the thing. That's a vanity statistic. I don't think that really matters in one sense. But you see, Instagram can give its own anxiety. I think you're right in that you don't have to post as much. I love the stories because I kind of don't have to think too much. I do have to think, but I can just share stuff. But with the feed, because I'm not so image focused, I have to really think, oh, what am I going to post now? And I like that with Twitter, in that you could just like put what's on your mind and put it in text. So for people who aren't so image focused, do you think that's an issue with Instagram, or have you got some tips for us when it comes to using Instagram?
You've answered your own question actually without realizing it. If you're text focused, which lots of us are, all you need to do to create an image to go with the text that you want to say is put some of the text, the headline, on a coloured background. There's your image. So image doesn't need to be a photo. It doesn't need to be a photo of you. It doesn't need to be a photo of anything. An image can be a text on a background. So it can be really, really simple in terms of creating your content. And people overthink it, actually. Yes, it needs to match your brand colours, and it needs to be legible, and it needs to stand out in the newsfeed. But it can just be 3 words on a white background, and that can be your image. So there just isn't any need to overthink this, really.
Yeah, but you're talking to an overthinker, Libby. So
recovering.
Recovering.
I'm one too. So note to self.
Yeah, but you see, that's one of the things I love about stories. I love the fact that, you know, they don't have to be professional in, you know, you don't have to spend a huge amount of time with the way they look. It's just a case of just being real, and I love the real part of it as well. So Alec is saying, Ian, are you posting on Instagram? Yes, I am. I do. So Instagram's a funny one, actually, because I know my audience are on Instagram, and that's a really important thing. But I go through these phases, and so that's one of the things I want to do with my strategy is to, as I did with my show and my podcast, I have a reason. I know why I'm doing this. I know why I'm going live every time, and I know why I'm doing the podcast. If you have your reason to go to share on social media, I think that's going to make a big difference. I'm sure you'd agree with me, Libby. But
yeah, I'm knocking away.
Yeah. So I mean, how posting on Instagram, how does that benefit your business? And so I'll ask you that in a second, Libby. But for me, it's partly about, I mean, this year for me is my year of community. I'm wanting to build my community. And it's not about big numbers. It's about building those relationships. And I think with Instagram, I've really noticed there's a real community feel there with the direct messages. And I've got to know people really well. It integrates really well with Clubhouse if you're into that. But I don't know, there's something about it. But there are some downsides. You know, there's one of the things I don't like about it is the way you unless you have over 10,000 followers, you can't link to a website unless you put it in the bio and stuff like that. So tell us how does, you know, posting on Instagram benefit our business? What's been your experience with either yourself or with your clients?
Well, I said before, I think it's one of the easiest platforms to manage, and that makes quite a big difference, quite frankly. But it has lots of different elements in the one place. So if you like stories, you can do stories and then never post in your feed. If you like the kind of traditional Facebook style posting, you can create posts, you can create contents, you can do video, a pre-recorded video, you can do live video, you can do it all in one place. And within that, you might have different people in your audience who prefer to consume their content in different ways. So rather than spreading yourself across Facebook and YouTube and Twitter and LinkedIn, you can actually almost cover all on Instagram. So I think that's a really kind of basic way of looking at it, actually, but that can be quite helpful. But one thing you said about the links in lives are live. So that's not too many lives in that sentence. So if you're doing lives and you put a web link in the comments, then that's live.
Well, there we go. That's another. Yeah. So I have to admit, I mean, I'm all about live video, but I haven't done that much Instagram live, and that's something I maybe want to change. I know that you've got a show and you go live on Instagram, don't you?
Mm-hmm. And I believe you're coming on it next week.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. So that's cool. Now, a couple of other questions that are kind of related to that, and I do want to then focus on how we get started with this plan. But Martin, so a couple of questions. So Martin's saying, would you recommend Instagram for me, as my main clientele are senior business leaders and those who aspire to be business leaders? And Alec is kind of wondering the same kind of thing. He's a bit concerned. He says, I have a feeling that in my business area, if I posted to Instagram, I think this would be a turn-off for my clients. And then I asked Alec what his bit more about his business, and it says business is if I can speak, automotive. Most of audience are professionals on LinkedIn. I guess my question is the same as before. So any thoughts on that? You know, because does it not depend on our audience, and can it be can it put people off if we post on Instagram?
Well, it wouldn't put people off, but if it's not if it's not the place where your audience is, then it's not the one that you should choose. That goes the same for any platform that you might be looking at. That's why you need to do research into where your audience hangs out and hashtags that might be utilized and that kind of thing. And from that, you'll be able to determine which is your core platform. Instagram is my personal favorite, but it's the key place where my audience hangs out, and each business will be different. So I can't say, yes, you all must be on Instagram, because no, LinkedIn will be the place for some people. But so it depends entirely on the individual businesses. It's something that I teach a lot to my clients. It's one of the core focus in my online program, because knowing these fundamentals for your business will stop you going off on a tangent and spending too long focusing on a platform which is not right for your business at all. So it's impossible to give yes or no answers to that, really, because there are so many variables and there's quite a lot of work to do to actually kind of think through that. But if you're thinking, well, Martin was it who said his main clientele are senior business leaders and those who aspire to be business leaders. Well, that's two completely different audiences for a start. So senior business leaders might well be on LinkedIn. Obviously, this is just based on this one sentence of information that we've got. And people who are aspiring to be business leaders, well, what does that mean? Does that mean people like you and me, Ian, who are kind of entrepreneurs who lead in our own way in the business world, or people who are looking to climb up the corporate ladder to be CEOs of big corporates? There's so many variables in it that it's quite difficult to kind of answer that question directly. But those are all things that people should think about as part of their plan. I mean, I kind of you say you haven't asked about the plan yet, but actually all the way through that's kind of all I've been talking about. Elements that need to be included in this plan, this strategy.
Well, yeah. So what I meant by that is, so these are all great questions, and I think these are the kind of questions that we should be asking. But I think for a lot of people, it's like, how do we get started? So you've mentioned so many things about the plan, but how, what should we be doing? Obviously, we should be hiring you and you can help us. But if we're just starting out, and what are the first things that we should be thinking about? Should we be doing that audience research? Tell us a little bit more about how we can actually get started with a social media marketing plan.
Yeah, the first thing is not setting up a Facebook page. The first thing is not creating the account or writing a fancy bio. The first thing is working out exactly who you want to connect with. That's absolutely the first thing that you should think about. And it might be that you've got an assortment of different strands to your business. But actually, if you focus on just one element of the business on your social media, it will be easier for people to engage with you, to know that you're talking to them, and it will be easier for you to have a cohesive message. So yeah, number one is absolutely working out who it is that you want to connect with, and then where they are, finding out, doing research to find out which social media channels that they're on. Yeah.
And how would we do that? Because Alec is asking here, says social media marketing is a key for many professionals on LinkedIn. So he's asking me specifically, so why would you say that your market is on Instagram? Are you targeting a specific age group or a product like businesses? So I mean, for me, I think my audience are definitely on Instagram, because a lot of entrepreneurs that I've worked with, my clients, they're on Instagram. So that's absolutely, I do feel personally that I do have a lot of potential clients on LinkedIn. I just personally haven't got my head around, just LinkedIn for me is not enjoyable at the moment. And I probably need to find the fun in LinkedIn, but I don't know what Libby has to say about that. But yeah. So in terms of like the research, how do we find out whether our audience is on a particular platform? How do we do that?
Well, I don't want to give too much away, because this, like I say, this is something that I teach to my clients in my online program. But basically, you need to use search functions on any of these platforms. If you've got an ideal client, then see where they are, see who they're connecting with, see which groups they're engaging with, seeing what words they're using, seeing what hashtags they're using, and then multiply them. You want to clone these people. So you have to use the search functions in order to find these people.
Yeah, that's really helpful. So do the search, and of course, if you want to find out more, then we'll be letting you know a little bit more about Libby's program, so you can find out in more detail and get into the depths of all of this. Because it's, there's the simple stuff, and then there's the stuff that probably takes a little bit more time and effort into it.
Can I answer that question as well? That was that Alec asked, just to say something about that. So what do you say? Social media marketing is a key for many professionals. So why would you say that your market is on Instagram? I think that was, for me as well. LinkedIn is way too corporate for the audience that I want to work with. I do work with. I work with small business owners such as Ian and myself. So they're the kind of people that are on Instagram rather than on LinkedIn. I have had a lot of work from LinkedIn over the years, but it is corporate work. And whilst that's very lucrative, it's not the work that I enjoy, and it's not the work that I'm looking to grow or develop. So for me, it's a conscious strategic choice of being the most active on the platform where the kind of people that I want to work with are, not necessarily where the big buck jobs are, because there's no fun for me in that. I don't like it.
And we want the fun. We definitely want the fun. So just to let you know, if you've just joined us, welcome. This is the Confident Live Marketing Show. I'm joined by Libby Langley. We're talking about how to plan your social media marketing strategy, which is so important. So just to let you know, we go live every Tuesday and Thursday. And if you want to, if you're listening to the podcast or watching the replay and you've missed out watching live, then you can subscribe. Just go to confident.live/subscribe. And my handy Facebook Messenger bot will kick into action and remind you next time we go live. So keep the comments coming. There's some fabulous comments today, lots of good questions, which is awesome. And also to let you know that the next episode on Thursday, I'm talking about ADHD. Why am I talking about ADHD? Well, I think so many of us have either got ADHD or ADHD-like symptoms. We've got this kind of squirrel mentality where, and I think on social media, we've been talking about all these different platforms, channels. So we're going to talk about, I'm going to be sharing a little bit of my story. I haven't been diagnosed with ADHD, but I'm pretty sure I do have it. And so we're going to be talking about that and how I think that live video is actually one of the best kind of channels or best focuses really for people who have ADHD. So that's on Thursday. So Libby, Alec is saying thank you for the answers. So that's always good. So when it comes to live video, so I'm interested in your show as well. Now, maybe you can share some of your thoughts behind why you go live to Instagram. How does live video and maybe other content like blogging and whatever it is, how does that fit into our social media plan? Because for me, this is where it all starts with my content, and then I post out afterwards to social media. But is that a good strategy? How does it all fit into it?
Well, live video is a great way of communicating more information about what it is that you do, or sharing hints and tips, or sharing your exposing your personality to people in, quite frankly, a sort of lazy way. And it's not intended to be derogatory when I say that in any way, shape or form. But, you know, for example, we're here, we're talking about this. We know this stuff in our head. So there's little prep actually that needs to happen for it. We turn up, we talk, you can make, I don't know, 5 to 10 different pieces of content out of this. And it's a great way to do it. And the thing about live video as well is that it's generally speaking unscripted stuff. So that's like I say, so the personality comes out, the ums and ahs and everything is all there, which is really good. But people get notifications about it. The platforms, whichever they are, like it. And so whether you're going on live on Instagram or YouTube, or you can set notifications so that if somebody goes live, you get told about it. What better way is there to build your business than to have people already set up saying, oh yeah, I'd like to see that when it comes. You can't do that in any other way. So it quite simply it's an essential piece, but it comes with a lack of confidence, which I know is a focus of what you teach people, Ian, but a lack of confidence, nerves, camera fright, all of these things. But actually, if you can get over that, you will soon realize that it's one of the single greatest ways to grow your audience, to grow your reputation, and therefore to grow your business.
Yeah, it really is. And I think getting over that confidence is absolutely vital, because so many people want to hide. And this was my experience. You know, I'm not I never was particularly one of these people that say, hey, I want to get on camera today and share with my audience. You know, that was never me. But I think, you know, the world needs the extroverts, it needs the introverts, it needs all of us. And, you know, we all have a message to share. And so this is one of my passions that I want to share on this show, is to get people with the confidence. So interested with you. So I go live everywhere apart from Instagram Live. So I use RESTREAM. I go live to Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitch, but I don't do Instagram because it's mobile only. There are technically ways you can get around that. I don't recommend them. You could get banned off Instagram. Don't do that. But with Instagram, would you say it's a more kind of, I don't know, well, tell me, why Instagram Live?
Well, just to say something about that, come back on a point that you said just before that actually was about the introvert extrovert thing. I'm an introvert too. And so, you know, I'm doing this now, but I know when this finishes, I'm going to be exhausted because of this level of interaction. and that's okay. That's kind of normal behavior, and that's fine. The rest of my day is planned accordingly. I've got nice quiet stuff to do. And it sounds a bit kind of feeble and stuff, but that's all right. If you have to manage your day like that, that's all right. So if you're thinking about doing videos or broadcasts, I would strongly recommend batch recording them. So if you're going to go live on a Tuesday, say, then record any pre-recorded videos that you're going to do on the same day. And if you're creating reels or stories, this kind of thing, record it all on the same day. So you get your kind of exhausting stuff done in one day. Because if you are an introvert, then having something like that every day will kill you. You know, it's really, really tough to do that. So I would do that as a piece of advice, and that's very much from the heart, because that's absolutely how I operate my own business and my own content. And I've forgotten what the second question was. I'm sorry. Oh no, why Instagram? So
Yeah.
sorry. Instagram is, well, it's accessible. It's accessibility, quite frankly, because you've said that you use fancy software and different platforms, and you go live on multiple different channels. And I don't do that. You know, I have a really successful business, and I would say I'm above averagely visible on these channels, and I do it all. I mean, you can tell just by the quality of me on screen, for those watching, compared with you, Ian. I don't have all the high-tech stuff, and that's how I teach people. So the majority of the things that I do are done with my smartphone, which I'm ashamed to admit is still an iPhone 7 because I haven't quite got around to upgrading it yet. But my content is good because I think long and hard about what it is that's really going to help my clients and the people that I want to convert to clients. And that's what it boils down to. And that's the beauty of all these platforms, is that you don't have to be shiny and polished at all. That doesn't matter. YouTube more so, it does matter. But on the other chance, it just doesn't matter. It's about being there, saying the right things that will connect with your audience, and really giving them the value and the help and the support and the love and the nurturing and the confidence that they need in order to be able to move forward. So we get a bit hung up on the tech, and we kind of shouldn't. Smartphone's fine, and you can do all these things.
I couldn't agree with you more. It's the biggest thing. People always come to me and say, Ian, can you recommend this camera? Can I sort this out? And actually, when you dig a little bit deeper, they're coming up with excuses. It's often they're just not confident. There's something getting in the way. And actually, you're totally right. You can just go live with your smartphone. In fact, smartphone cameras are amazing. So don't make that as an excuse. I mean, I think I prefer using a computer over a phone, but I've just worked out on the new version of my Mac software, I think I can actually run iPhone apps on my computer, so I could probably do Instagram on my computer that way. Okay. So just a little thought. Melissa, sorry, that's me being a bit techie and geeky, but Melissa says, I am definitely an introvert. You are not the only one. There's a lot of us about,
Melissa. There's a lot of us about. Yeah.
Alex says, gotta exit now. Thanks both for the show. Is that a Bovril Marmite jar on the shelf?
It is. It's nicely spotted. Can you also see my Kit Kat mug from 1987? Yeah. So, this way around. So the Bovril, no, it's a Marmite jar, and it was something that we had made for our wedding last year. It's got the date of our wedding, and obviously doesn't infringe any copyrights whatsoever. But it's we both really like Marmites. We had it made for our wedding, so it's a little wedding souvenir there on my shelf.
Love that. Well, I've got one final question just before we finish, which is we've talked a lot today about posting and scheduling and stuff. And of course, as we know, social media is not a one-way communication machine. It's not about just posting content. It's also about engagement. And I'll admit, I particularly with Twitter, oh my goodness, I remember when I used to do Twitter chats, and I can't think of anything more stressful. How do we manage engagement effectively? And this is why I love a tool like Agorapulse, because it does. Agorapulse is great in that it allows you to have a social inbox for Twitter and Facebook, but it doesn't do everything, because, like, for example, Facebook don't give third-party tools the permission to read your personal profile messages, and the same with Instagram. I don't know, it's just really annoying. So how do we cope with all of that? And because obviously we've got to engage with our audience as well.
Yeah, well, the way of simplifying it is focusing on one platform and focusing fully on one platform. So that automatically kind of limits the amount of time that you need to spend engaging with people. And when you're starting out, there isn't going to be loads of engagement. You're going to be over the moon with one or two comments, and that's okay, because we all have to start like that. But as you build your business and as you get more comments, what I would suggest is setting aside time to respond to them. So if you, between 7 and 8 every evening is a time when you're half watching the telly or bath time or whatever it is that allows you to perhaps focus on two things at once, then you can go into your social media and respond to stuff. What I would say absolutely not to get into the habit of doing is having your notifications on and binging all over the place as well, and responding to things straight away, because that's incredibly stressful, incredibly intrusive and exhausting. So set aside time. Won't need to be an hour a day to start with. It will need to be 5 minutes a day, but that will build up, like I say. But managing it rather than it managing you. Really, really important there.
Love that. Really important. I mean, I'm a big believer in actually switching off notifications on your phone.
Yep.
It's the first thing I do. It just, it's just not good. Instead of social media managing you, as you were saying, you can manage it. And that is awesome. Well, we've come to the end. Thank you, Libby. This has been so helpful. And I feel, I do actually feel this. I actually feel that the anxiety has gone. I feel a lot more relaxed. So you've been great.
Now.
There we go. We get a Zen moment. And yeah, I think, it's all about, giving ourselves permission not to do what we think we should be doing, which, you know, we kind of been taught this through probably lots of gurus out there talking about you need to be everywhere and all this kind of stuff. And we know deep down that's not true. So, Libby, how can we find out more about you? I've got your website up here, which is LibbyLangley.com. That's LibbyLangley.com. So tell us more about how we can find you, and also about your program as well, so we can sign up.
Well, a good place to start is you would have seen on that screenshot there. There's a free masterclass. So if you go to LibbyLangley.com/grow, then you are welcome to join my free masterclass, where I give lots of information about what I've been talking about today, really, how to better manage the stress and anxiety when it comes to social media. And there it is on screen, my 5-step framework to easily grow your business on social media. And one thing that I'm really passionate about is working with people who have fewer than 10,000 followers, because most of us do, and people who don't want to be spending hours online. And what I teach in my masterclass and then in my program is basically how to do that.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Libby. Yeah, do go to LibbyLangley.com and check that out. And in terms of socials, I think you've already said Instagram is kind of where you like to be. So what's your Instagram username that people can find you for?
I'm Libby Langley, at Libby Langley. You can find me on all social media. I'm always at Libby Langley on everything. So
that's good. There aren't that many other Libby Langleys out there. Awesome. Well, thank you, Libby. It's been great to have you on the show. Well, we're out of time. It's been, thank you so much if you've been watching live, it's been great to see you. Thank you so much for all those questions. Or if you're watching the replay, it's been great to have you here. Or listening to the podcast, thank you so much for plugging us into your ears. And if you haven't come across the podcast, if you haven't subscribed or listened to it, then do check it out. iag.me/podcast is how you can do that in your favorite podcasting app. Melissa is saying thank you both. Thank you so much, Melissa, for watching us, joining us live. I really don't take that for granted. But we are at the end of the show. And of course, I want to encourage you to level up your impact, authority, and profits through the power of Confident Live Video. See you soon. Bye.
Thanks for watching the Confident Live Marketing Show with Ian Anderson Gray.
Make sure you subscribe at iag.me/podcast so you can continue to level up your impact, authority, and profits through the power of live video.
And until next time,
Toodaloo.